Ah, I feel like I'm the opening bell for the Olympics there. All right. Welcome to Bloomington Rotary Club's weekly celebration of service. I'm Tracy Ivanovich, and I'm honored to be serving as your president. Our thought for the day is from Melinda Gates. If you are successful, it is because somewhere, sometime, someone gave you a life or idea that started you in the right direction. Remember also that you are indebted to life until you help some less fortunate person, just as you were helped. So for our reflection today, Roseanne Levy, can you come on up? I waited till your mouth was full. Anytime.
Okay, now that you see this picture up here, I'm sure you can imagine what the reflection's going to be like, or who it's going to be about. Um, Hi, Bucky. He's staring at me. See? Anyway, how many of you have a dog or any kind of pet? Raise your hands high. I just want to get a feel. Oh, that's really good. I love that. I love dogs. I've had dogs all my life. When my kids were growing up, we had an assortment of different kinds of dogs. We raised them. When the kids went off to college, that was it. We didn't have dogs probably for at least 10, 15 years. One day, I said to Artie, let's get a dog. I don't know why I said that. Have no idea. He said, no, I don't want to get a dog. I don't want the responsibility of walking the dog in the snow, the rain, or anything else. I don't want to get one. I said, Artie, come on, please. So, of course, we got a dog. We went to the Brown County shelter in Nashville. We saw this dog. He's a beagle. We named him Bucky. And the minute we saw him, we said, we're taking him home. So that was our first introduction back into the dog world. And it's really interesting because as it happened, it started during COVID. It was, I believe, the first couple of weeks COVID came out, and we got this dog, as so many other people did as well. But the one thing Artie did say about having Bucky during COVID, he said, Bucky saved our lives. I said, what do you mean? He said he saved our lives because instead of going in lockdown, which most everybody was doing, we were out hiking and taking Bucky on long walks. So we were able to get through COVID, thank God, and enjoy it as best we could with Bucky. Recently, first I want to, no, I did that already. I'm kind of going back because I'm always curious as to how many people like dogs and have dogs. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a dog. It could be a cat. It could be a bird. It could be whatever your likes are, as long as it's a pet. So recently I received an article about the benefits of having a dog or a pet, any pet. And I was so touched by this article that I wanted to share it with you. Next slide. The title of the article, as you can see, is The Empowering Companion, How Dogs, and I'm going to add pets, enrich our lives. This is not something I ever equated to. I just knew I loved dogs, but I never really equated to the benefits that dogs can give you, or any pet can give you. There's something uniquely profound about the bond between humans and their dogs. This furry friend becomes a confidant, a source of unconditional love. If you have a dog, you'll know that, even with all their idiosyncrasies, a partner in every aspect of your life. And in this article, we explore the multifaceted ways dogs enrich our lives, offering companionship, emotional support, and numerous, believe it or not, health benefits. Next slide. I love this picture. We take him on many walks, and obviously Bucky's attached to Papa. That's what we call him. For many, a dog is more than just a pet. It's a cherished member of your family. The companionship of a dog can provide comfort, reduce stress, and bring joy to your daily life. Whether it's a brisk morning walk, and God knows I love to walk Bucky. It's my daily outdoor exercise, if you will. I love taking him on a minimum half hour to an hour walk, and we always go to different places. I don't want him to kind of become stagnant and say, oh, I was there, I don't want to go there anymore. But he loves it, and I love it. So being outside with your dog is the best, I think. And even if it's a cat, my neighbor has a cat, and she has a big patio, and she lets her cat, right, climb on those little things that they have for cats. I don't know much about cats. I did have one many, many years ago. Anyway, so that's the companionship and the joy of companionship. And know that it is a joy. At least for me, it is. Next slide. Oh, that's me. I happen to love that photo. Someone took it of me when we lived in Illinois a couple of years ago, and I just came out perfect. So the dogs also give you emotional support and well-being. Dogs have an innate ability to sense our emotions and provide comfort where we need it the most. They're very, very, very smart animals. They can be particularly beneficial for those dealing with anxiety or depression, offering a kind of non-judgmental, very important, support that's kind of hard to find anywhere else. The simple act of petting a dog releases your endorphins, promotes a sense of calm and happiness. Next slide. That's Bucky's winter coat. Our four-legged friends require exercise which encourages pet owner, I call us poor parents, lead to a more active lifestyle. This shared activity can help maintain a healthy weight, improve cardiovascular health, and enjoy the outdoors, contributing to overall well-being. Next slide. He's the boss, as you can see. He found that chair, and he's in the chair every day. We follow his control, his lead. Being responsible for the well-being of a dog teaches discipline, responsibility, and yes, patience. These skills translate to other areas of life, fostering personal growth and a sense of achievement. Excuse me. The lessons learned from a dog ownership can empower individuals to take on new challenges with confidence. Next slide, please. And this is one of my favorite benefits because I love doing this, building social connections. A dog, yes, can build your social connections and build good relationships. Yesterday, I was at Best Buy, and the young man who helped me had a badge on, and I saw it had a picture of a dog. So I said, oh, do you have a dog? He said, absolutely. Would you like to see his picture? And with that, he pulled out his phone and he showed me the picture of Jackson. So it definitely will bring you into a sense of community and build more relationships. The dogs can be an incredible social catalyst. Walking a dog in the park or attending a training class can lead to new friendships and connections, enriching in one's social life, creating a sense of community. I'm just about finished. I'll hurry, I'm sorry. As we've seen, dogs offer far more. Did I do next slide? Yeah, one more. Thank you. As we've seen, dogs offer far more than companionship. They touch every facet of our lives, from enhancing our physical health to supporting our emotional needs and fostering personal growth. A dog is not just a best friend, but an empowering companion on a journey through our lives. As we embrace the love and lessons our furry friends provide, we unlock a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Now, I had to share this article because when I first read it, I was so touched by it. Like I said, I never equated to the benefits, but when I read this, I now understand them, and it's all true. Thank you.
And Sally, now if you could come up and introduce our guests.
Thank you, Tracy. We're pleased to have one guest today. Carlos Laverty has brought Kira Hansen. Kira, can you please stand and give us a wave? Really happy to have you here. Come back anytime. Ask Carlos about membership. And Joy, how are things out in Zoom land?
Well, thank you for asking, Sally. We also have one guest joining us, and it happens to be a guest of our guest speaker, Steve Volan. His friend from Milwaukee, Kelly Kuglich, is joining us on Zoom. So,
He's
welcome.
laughing. Thank you,
He's
Joy.
laughing? Okay, you're welcome, Sally.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. He's laughing in excitement, just to be clear. All right, so Rotary birthdays, Amy Kendall, tomorrow, happy birthday. And then the day after that is my birthday, 62, there you go. Bill Perkins on August 2nd and Amelia Schifris on the 6th. And from an anniversary standpoint, we have some experience, not old timers, we have experienced members. I'll start with Mike Baker, 32 years. Nice job. Bill Oates, 36 years. Amazing. Patrick Smith for 5 and Lee Witt for 21 years. A lot of good time in there. All right, for announcements, I need a reflection person to sign up for the 13th. Don't all jump at once, but somebody jump, please. We also have quite a few openings in September still, so love seeing a lot of the new members signing up. So if you're doing something first time and want to get pointers, we're happy to help you, but let's get some people on those signups. Secondly, book club. By the way, I read the book. I can't go tomorrow for the book club, but it was really good. The Girl of the Limberlost, and it's at 7:30 at Liz Vital's house on Wednesday, 4218 North Emma Drive. Next, we had a big event on Friday last week, and I know many of us were there helping out. Thank you to everyone who volunteered at the Hoosier Hills Food Bank as we partnered with Duke Energy. And congratulations to Liz Irwin on all the hard work in coordinating all that. We gave some good demonstrations on line management efficiencies as we packed all these bags. There were 23 volunteers, 320 bags packed for the mobile food pantry, totaling 4,800 pounds. Now I know why my arm hurt. And of food, the group also packed another 5,928 pounds of bulk granola for distribution. So the total packed in 5 hours was 10,728 pounds of food going all throughout Southern California, Southern Indiana. All right, and now we're going to do happy dollars, and I know Michael's going to help, and while he's looking for the first, I'm going to take the first. I already gave Natalie $20 to announce 3 things. First, my nephew Caleb, who's one of our Rotarians, has got an art show this Friday at the Eiffel Museum from 5 to 7. So if you've got nothing going on, walking around and looking at all the different art displays, it's First Friday. Let's go out and show support. Secondly, I'm wearing, you may have noticed, my Women's World Cup soccer shirt because the Olympic shirts aren't out yet, but let's hear it for the women's soccer team. They won 4-1. And yes, I did call my German exchange student to let him know that girls rule and boys drool. And then lastly, it's great to see so many people here today because I know there's a lot of vacations out there and we really appreciate it. Happy dollars, Michael?
$32 years, so $32, one of the best decisions I've made.
Other happy dollars? Anybody online, Joy?
Not seeing anybody yet.
Oh, I see Liz.
I'm very happy to report that my 12-year-old grandson is in Cooperstown, New York, with the 12-year-olds playing baseball at the Baseball Hall of Fame.
That's awesome. And time for one more happy dollars up. And that's actually perfect because he's going to be doing the introduction with Charlotte. So that's well done, Judy Witt.
Well, I like the reflection that you had because I wanted to tell you very quickly that what I learned about my son when one of his pets died was what he really believed in. And he gave the dog an Indian burial, which was information I was totally unaware of. And so I very much appreciated that. And I appreciate the reflection today.
Awesome. All right. And with that, we'll turn it over to Charlotte, who's going to introduce our guest speaker today.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm going to try to speak better today. I'm very proud to welcome as our speaker, Steve Volan, who I met knocking on doors. I think it was at Fifth and Roosevelt. There was a cement block house, and I knocked on the door, and a man came to the door who was taller than the house. But he was able to scrunch down in that house, and he told there for the first time in my life, I heard about the internet. And I learned about the internet because he had come here to IU to study from Maryville, Indiana. And he decided that we needed an internet connection here. And I had no idea what he was talking about. But he did. And the next thing you know, we had Blue Marble. Blue Marble was Steve's contribution to our community, which was a huge thing. I mean, a real breakthrough for Bloomington. And I've known Steve ever since. We don't always get along, but we always like each other. Yeah. And sometimes we border on rude, but it always comes out politely. He served for 20 years on the city council because he wanted to understand Bloomington. Well, he made it more understandable and sometimes not. However, he's no longer on the city council. So he's getting back at us by starting a website, a podcast. And frankly, it's the best thing in town. The podcast is The 812, and he's decided he's going to make people understand city government and county government and other things behind. The next thing we know, we'll know what our home situations are, because Steve is relentless on getting at facts and doing research. And one of the things, he wasn't sure what he was going to major in when he got here. So he tried a little bit of this and a little bit of that and created a brand new degree, which was general studies. So he didn't have to focus on anything. So now he's going to talk to us about the 812, where he's going to communicate all those little bits of information that he's gathered over the years, which have helped make this a better city. And thank you for having him here today. I give to you the chicken in real life from the celebrity dancing, Steve Volan.
What an introduction. First of all, just to clarify some things, I did not invent the Bachelor of General Studies. It was an existing degree at IU, but I do cop to having gotten that degree, plus a master's degree here at IU. Secondly, I do think that my gravestone will simply say the words occasionally quarrelsome. Okay. I'm not always quarrelsome, Charlotte. But I'm delighted to have been invited to speak today by Charlotte and by Michael Shermis. Oh, I need my slides here. Here we go. There we go. So I'm delighted to have been invited to speak today. I want to acknowledge Charlotte for her friendship and for, is this working? Yes. And for her excellent book on her election to the city council and the most significant election in Bloomington history. The book is called 1971, How We Won. It's now out in paperback at local bookstores like the Book Corner and Morgenstern's. It was a privilege to help her edit the book and an honor to follow in her giant footsteps in that job. For the record, Charlotte does not have big feet. It's just an expression. I also want to thank Michael Shermers for the invitation and for helping me prepare to speak before you. I know how important these talks are to Rotary. So thank you to the Tuesday Rotary for the invitation to speak today. I last gave a talk to this club on about this day in 2007, only a few months after my infamous chicken suit stunt. When you have me back in another 17 years, I will dress like a cicada. Like me, they are big and goofy. I've been asked to talk about the new show I began in January. It's called The 812, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. The 812 is a daily public affairs program, slightly longer than half an hour. There's a short segment we do at the beginning of every episode called The Lineup, where we highlight what public meetings are happening today. But most of each episode is taken up by an interview in which I talk with elected officials, appointed officials, members of boards and commissions, and people who help run nonprofits. Anyone, in short, who is involved somehow with local government. I'm not a reporter. I'm not pursuing hard news. But I'm not doing fluff either. In our interviews, I'm asking the same questions that I might have asked in council of, say, a nonprofit director or of a department head during council budget week. If you're familiar with National Public Radio, I feel like if Terry Gross of Fresh Air and Kai Ristall of Marketplace had a love child, I would be that love child's distant cousin. Anyway, in the first season, which ran from January 16th to June 21st, we did a show 5 days in a typical week, 4 of which featured new interviews. That may seem like a lot, but believe it or not, there's plenty of material for us to feature. We did almost 100 episodes, which are available right now through our website at the812show.org. We've had every member of the city council. We're working on every member of the county council, and we've had several current and former department heads. To give you a sense of what the show is like, this is a clip from my favorite episode so far. This was with Emily Pike, the director of New Hope for Families, the county's only family shelter for the unhoused. The statistics she cites in this clip still just blows me away.
So we've just talked about the shelter, the homing part of what you do, but there's another hugely significant aspect of your organization, which is you also have an early learning center.
That's exactly right.
So since your mission is about children and the adults who come with them, this is clearly another child-focused aspect of it. Tell us about the Early Learning Center.
Mm-hmm. So the Early Learning Center really got started because when we opened our family homeless shelter, we saw, first of all, many more infants and very young children than we expected to see.
Really? What did you expect to see?
Well, we expected it to be sort of scaled to the population, but in fact it's not. You are more likely to experience homelessness in the first year of your life in the United States than at any other time.
Well, what?
Yeah, and you're second likeliest before you turn 6. So kids too young for kindergarten are much more likely to experience homelessness than anyone else.
Why? Why
Well,
is that?
Yeah, it's because having a baby is a big life change, right?
Sure.
And if you are already living on a financial edge, it can be the thing that pushes a family over. And we see that happen time and again. We see that happen when parents don't have paid leave. We see that happen when parents don't have access to affordable, reliable childcare.
I'm sorry, my mind's a little blown now because of all the times I've ever heard about parental leave, this never occurred to me.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how important it might be for people who are on the edge, that it might cause them to fall into homelessness.
Paid leave is one of those things that we tend to think of as an extra bonus kind of thing.
Right.
But the truth is, the less money you make, the less likely you are to have paid leave, and the more likely you are to desperately need paid leave.
Oh my gosh.
Interesting, isn't it? This is the kind of thing you can expect to hear if you tune into the show. So why did I begin this show? Well, several reasons. The most prominent has to do with my previous job. I served on the Bloomington City Council from January 1st, 2004 to January 1st, 2024. While in the job, I often would say that it's not enough for a government to just be transparent. After transparency must come apparency. It should be obvious how it works. The most important case there is of what the tech types call user experience. I found myself spending a lot of time in office just explaining how local government worked. I knew I'd still be answering questions after I left office. And so a few months before the end of my last term, knowing I wanted to continue being involved in public affairs, I began to think that some kind of show about local government was worth pursuing. I see the 812 as a continuation of my work as a council member. To my surprise, the transition was as smooth as it could be. The first show aired about 2 weeks after I left office. Another reason for the show, I have an extensive background working with microphones since long before I ever contemplated public office. Microphones have taught me a lot. I've been, for instance, an MC at every Lotus Festival since the first one in 1994, the most recent 15 years or so at the 6th Street tent. And before the pandemic, I was a volunteer music DJ at WFHB every Thursday afternoon, going all the way back to 1993 when the station first went on the air. That's almost 27 years. I did these things because I loved them, but I didn't know at first why I loved them. Eventually, I learned that the MC has an unusual, underappreciated power, the ability to make you think differently just by the way they frame their introductions. Let's take the George Gershwin and Ira Gershwin tune, Someone to Watch Over Me. This is a song that you may know as a big ballad, lots of strings, full production number. It's the kind of thing that people use to show off. But if I were to present the song by telling you that it was first sung on Broadway in 1926 by Gertrude Lawrence, who sang it to a rag doll, given to her as a prop by George Gershwin, who intentionally bought it in a Philadelphia toy store to give it to her to use on stage, it might change the way you think about the song as a small, intimate, maybe even a timid number rather than a big production. Here is Julie Andrews portraying Gertrude Lawrence, the 1968 film Star.
There's a saying old says that love is blind. Still we're often told, seek and ye shall find. So I'm going to seek a certain looking everywhere, haven't found him yet. He's the big affair I cannot forget. Only man I ever think of with regret. I'd like to add his initial to my monogram. Tell me, where is the shepherd for this lost lamb? There's a somebody I'm longing to see. I hope that he turns out to be someone to watch over me. I'm a little lamb who's lost in the wood.
Cut it off there. Sorry about that. You can see that already the Broadway production is actually starting to get big, the full string section and the like. But that moment in the film really changes the cast of a song that maybe you thought you knew. In fact, my radio roots go back further than the 1990s. I got bitten by the volunteer radio bug at the station where I first went to university, WRCT at Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh in the mid-80s. I discovered that being a DJ was something that could only be done solo from the privacy of a DJ booth like this one. Yet it was an inherently social act with a sub-community of people helping to make it happen. In the summer of 1986, right before I moved to Bloomington, I was surprised to discover a commercial radio station that might play music I enjoyed. But the more I listened, the more I liked the people bringing me the music. Only because I had done radio myself was I able to appreciate the craft of their DJs. When radio is good, it keeps you company. if you do it right, like WXRT in Chicago has always done, it's possible to create a powerful and emotional bond. I want to show you now this 2022 clip from the hit show The Bear about the challenges and tensions of life in the back of a Chicago restaurant. A couple of notes. This show normally has no regular opening credits or theme song, so this is unusual. All the faces you see in this segment are in close-up are characters in the show. And the first voice you hear is the morning host of WXRT, Lynn Bramer.
Thank God you found us at 93.1 FM WXRT. I'm Lynn Bramer, your best friend in the whole world. It's great to be alive. So let's start today with a songwriter who has been known to climb on the stage of the Metro as the Christmas Unicorn, a rare and beautiful creature costumed in stunning colors. And while you've heard all roads lead to Rome, some roads lead from Chicago. This is Sufjan Stevens. This is Chicago.
Drove to Chicago. All things know, all things know. We sold our clothes to the state. I don't mind, I don't mind. I made a lot of mistakes in my mind, in my mind.
Up, watching Chicago TV, listening to Chicago radio, who knew Bill Curtis, now of Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, as the anchor for Channel 2 News in the 70s. This clip gave me all the feels. It still gives me chills every time I see it. Everything about it is magnificent, not just the Magnificent Mile, but the history, the industry, the mixture of emotions of pride and shame and home, which is what the whole show is about. Note the way that you see the buildings of Chicago, not as a bird shot from above by a drone, but from a car, from below, from the street, looking up, craning your neck to see the tall buildings like a pedestrian would, like a kid like me would and did. I can only aspire to tell a story this well, let alone in 2 minutes. But the audio was essential to it, and the introduction was essential to set and frame this scene. There is great power in how you frame your subject. WXRT DJs taught me the formula for being good with a microphone. Talk to one person, not folks. Say just enough about the things you're obligated to say to show that you're a human being. Say one interesting thing about what's next, and then get off the mic to let the music work its magic. The listener won't remember the music, they'll just remember that you kept them company. If I've been allowed to continue doing a weekly 2-hour afternoon music show here in Bloomington over the years, and if people have enjoyed my show, it's because I've modeled myself after the DJs at WXRT. Spotify will never be able to provide this kind of service. This is how beloved Lynn Bramer was, the guy in that clip. He died about 6 months after the clip was released. Tributes to him came from the former mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, from the Chicago Tribune, and from the Chicago Cubs. That's the emotional power of a microphone. But one can be an MC without a microphone. Amplification of human speech was invented thousands of years ago with the megaphone. What did someone do when they wanted to be heard? They didn't have a cone handy, and they weren't already my height. They might avail themselves of a literal soapbox, which is where the term for the opportunity to air one's views publicly comes from. And they would simply shout, but all the power came from the person speaking. Abraham Lincoln had to speak to thousands at Gettysburg before the microphone was invented. Somehow he was heard. Many people have used microphones to amplify their voices. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was the consummate orator, accustomed to being heard wherever he went. But in Washington in 1963, speaking before hundreds of thousands, even he needed help. They paired microphones with amplifiers to reach all the way to the Washington Monument. A microphone is not an electric megaphone. It doesn't amplify sound by itself. It only captures sound. Unlike a megaphone, though, and as you've heard, a microphone can create intimacy, the kind of social capital that's essential for people to get along and for society to function. Let me show you something. Notice what happens when I step away from the mic. To be heard, I have to, I'm going to put the mic down. To be heard, I have to raise my voice in pitch and strain my vocal cords and my body to produce enough sound to be heard in the back. This is how Lincoln had to speak at Gettysburg. But when I come close to a mic, I don't need as much energy to be heard. My voice can drop into my lowest registers, and our lowest registers always sound warmer and more inviting. You too can sound warmer and more inviting. Just get closer to your mic. The real power of a microphone is not to bridge distances physically, but emotionally. Whether you connect a mic to an antenna or to a recording device, using it to capture intimacy really requires you to team it with headphones and a sound meter that will tell you when you're too loud or too quiet. The feedback loop that results is what allows you to train your ear for polite conversation. As a kid, I used to be too loud and was often shushed for it. That ear training helped me long after I would leave my radio show for the week, and it's a big reason I kept doing radio all these years. Headphones, that's a zoom in on the headphones. Nowadays, the ensemble of microphone, headphones, and sound meter do not need to be teamed with a 100-foot antenna to amplify one's voice as the radio did. Now one can team such equipment with a router and digital communications connection. Podcasting is radio through the online ether instead of the real-world atmosphere, but the effect is the same. I'm able to invite decision makers and other local people doing important things in for conversation that I can then share with the city. Because I spent so much time behind the mics on the council dais, listening and learning, it makes it a lot easier for me to ask good questions. And it allows me to keep serving the community by helping local government become what I've always thought it should be, more apparent in how it works. So season 2 of the 812 starts next Monday, August 5th. Here are some of the people we've interviewed last season. That's Gabe Gloden of Constellation in the lower corner. That is the new city controller, Jessica McClellan, formerly the county treasurer. This is Shatoya Moss, the newly appointed Community and Family Resources Director. This is Mike McAfee selling me Eclipse glasses from Visit Bloomington. This is Matt Flaherty on the city council still. And whoa, come back. Oh, I lost my, can you put my slideshow back up? Very excited. Anyway, there are going to be some changes to the show. We used to schedule 4 original interviews each week, and on the 5th day created a digest version of those shows. It was a little too much to sustain. In season 1, we were only able to create an average of 3 original interview episodes a week. So in season 2, if you can jump to the season 2 slide when you can get it back up. Well, I'm gonna punt here. We're gonna continue that key amount of output by eliminating the digest show and scheduling episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to give us more room to breathe. But in addition to keeping the lineup module, we're also adding a new segment, a 60-second editorial. We're building a website for the show that will feature full transcripts of each interview, as well as show notes with links to things mentioned in the interviews. And that website will also, for the first time, enable people to support the show as patrons. Some of the people we've already interviewed for episodes include, and it says now to me to read names, I'm going to try to remember the names on the slide. Sheriff Ruben Marte has been interviewed, County Clerk Nicole Brown. Who else do I have on the slide? I know is that next Monday, Mayor Thompson will be coming in for an interview as well. You'll be able to listen to them all with your favorite podcast app, or you can just go to our website, the812show.org. There's not a lot else at that website at the moment. We're scrambling to get the website up in time for next Monday. Are we dead on the slides? Well, this is the risks of public speaking. Anyway, all this is what it takes to put out quality local media. If you like the local media being produced by independent publishers these days, I urge you to support those who are stepping in where legacy media has been leaving off. I do love microphones, but there can be too much of a good thing. After more than a year and a half off, I came back to radio in October 2021. Post-pandemic, I still do a volunteer music show, but I can only manage every other Thursday. For the first time in 30 years, I will not be emceeing at Lotus, the 6th Street tent where I normally have. That's partly because I'm obliged to attend a wedding out of town that weekend, unfortunately. It's also because this year, thanks to post-pandemic budget cuts, there will be no 6th Street tent at Lotus. I know Lotus hopes it will return soon. But I'm happy to share this new chapter of my career. I hope you'll try the 812. I hope you'll find it interesting, and I hope you'll give us feedback about it, positive or negative. No matter what, I know I've learned a lot from doing it. And for a little while, it lets me be your best friend in, well, if not the whole world, at least the whole city. On behalf of my co-producer, Kelly Kuglich, who's online today, I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. Thank you.
I don't have a question, Steve.
I understand their questions. Go ahead.
I don't have a question. I have 20 happy dollars. This has been refreshing. I've watched you on Caps, and you've shown a side of you today that I didn't know about. So I appreciate that, and I thank you.
Thank you. I don't know what these happy dollars are, but I take it it's a good thing. So thank you. Are there any questions? Yes.
Yes, Steve. Where do you record these? And do you always insist on bringing your guests into the studio with you, or do you occasionally do them on the phone?
Excellent question. The photos you saw of people who were in the studio that I've rented in Fountain Square. So I work out of Fountain Square Mall in the portion of the mall that is otherwise known as the old jail. If you know the building on about 116 South Walnut Street, that big limestone thing is part of Fountain Square Mall. There's a lot of office space there. And it's proven to be quite a congenial place to record, except for the noisy air conditioner, which we have to shut up when it comes on, but otherwise it's fine. But I can, in fact, record remotely, and I have done a number of interviews from people who couldn't be physically present. So especially for people who can't make it into the studio, it's a very useful thing.
So to me, the 812 show implies it's more than just Bloomington. Do you reach out and do other areas besides just Bloomington?
Because when I started the show, I was also running for office in the county. I only focused the show at the beginning on city offices, the city of Bloomington. After I was my services were no longer needed in May, I started expanding and interviewing county personnel. So right now I'm doing both city of Bloomington and County Monroe. You know, if Ellisville wants to talk, I am happy to have them in the studio too. Yes, it does imply a broader field, but I think it's like saying South Central Indiana. It's a term of art. I could have called it the 930. I don't know if you know that there's a second area code for this community. For everyone in Southern Indiana, everyone who's an 812 code can also get a 930 number. We have 2 area codes I don't know if you know anybody who's using that number, but I don't think it would have had the same cachet. Other questions?
Thank you very much. Very interesting. Yesterday, I was listening to a politician who, without identifying him, is perhaps running for the vice presidency of the United States. And after his speech, which was held in another state, the commentator on TV said, politicians don't have to shout anymore. What is your comment on that?
I don't think that's true. I think that depending on where you are and when you are, you have to be ready to shout, to be heard. It's always been a matter of, what are the physical circumstances around where you're trying to speak and be heard? Sometimes you can be, just the acoustics of a room can be problematic. There's not a lot of padding or carpeting in this room. If I were to try to speak without a microphone, how long could I do it before I ran out of breath? But I think that it's an essential skill, although I agree with you that for the most part, as long as there are microphones around, it's an advantage, and it allows you to build, again, a sense of intimacy that shouting generally doesn't.
Thanks for speaking with us today. Could you tell us about your process for how you determine what questions or topics you'll ask your guests?
It's a great question. I tell my guests that I am not, like I said, I'm not doing hard news. I'm not doing fluff. My goal is to explain things. And so, especially the first time I have a guest in the studio, I want them to explain themselves and not much more. So I work with the guests in the first few minutes before we start recording to ask, what are you trying to get across? What can you explain for us? Now, in the most part, the guests I've had have had sort of a wide variety of duties. Eventually, I'll have guests in ones and twos who will come back and they'll be there to talk about a specific issue. But basically, I record live to tape. And so I want the guests to know that we're trying to not stop the tape as often as, to stop the tape as little as possible. And we want the conversation to flow. So you heard me interviewing Emily Pike. That's typical, where we're just sort of talking. And part of the value of that is I don't actually know where the conversation is going to go. And it is a little bit of magic. You can see it in any guest who comes in the studio. A sort of a change comes over them when they know the mic is live and they're being recorded. It's not necessarily that they freeze up, but there is a difference when people know that there's a witness to it. So the conversation we had just had a minute ago before the mic was on can definitely change for the better or the worse the minute the mic does go on. But for the most part, that's how my process is. There's going to come a point, like for example, when the mayor comes in, I won't be able to simply, the mayor is head of an entire administration. It's not like I'm interviewing a single department. And so there's going to be a wide variety of topics we could discuss. And I'm going to take some cues from her as well. But because there's so many different topics, the first interview will probably be very broad. So.
Having actually done one of the interviews with you, Steve.
That's right. Michael Shermis and Cheryl Zillow have both been guests on the 812 show. I encourage you to go find their episodes and listen to what wonderful people they are.
I was just going to say it wasn't too painful. So I would recommend it if he asked just to step up to the plate. So Joy, is there anybody online to ask questions? No?
I don't think so, Michael.
Steve, I often listen to podcasts when I'm traveling and just wondered if you know if that's characteristic or, what do your listeners tell you? Where are they when they tune in?
That's a really good question. I do know some people travel. I'm not sure that, if it's more a matter of what kind of podcast habit you have. If you're somebody who really needs to get up in the morning and listen to something, then you're going to do that. And I do have listeners who have said that's exactly what they do. That I'm a part of their day. I don't know how they're going to handle 3 days a week, but that's as much as I can produce. But I think for the most part, the audience is local. I do think that there's potential for the show to expand statewide, but not as a single show, as a similar show in other communities. That our community is big enough, I think, to sustain a show like this that sort of helps people understand their community. So I am interested in that idea that maybe we could do a similar show for communities as big or bigger than Bloomington.
You mentioned that Emily Pike was one of your favorites, if not your absolute favorite. And you mentioned having Michael Shermas on your program.
Michael Shermas was my absolute favorite.
Yeah. But yeah, I was going to ask you, you know, what are your three favorites, if you have them, and why? And who have you yet to interview who would be your dream guest?
Well, I mean, for a while it was Dave Rollo. I mean, I know every member of the council who's on it now. I ran with some of them. The only one who I couldn't get into the studio was Dave, who I worked with longer than anybody. I worked with him for 20 years on the city council, and he would not get back to me. And it wasn't because he was avoiding me. He's whatever. I'm just going to let him twist in the wind. But I finally got him on the show, and it was an okay show, and he had nothing to worry about. One of my favorite shows was with new councilmember Isak Asare. I had him on the show, interviewed him, and afterwards he insisted that he wanted to come back and turn the tables. And so there's a second episode with him where he interviews me. So I have to say I had fun doing that. He's quite the raconteur. Again, the Emily Pike episode was very good. You're asking me to choose from all my children, and this is a difficult thing to do. I don't know. I feel like if you drop the needle anywhere, you're going to find something interesting. So Charlotte is my favorite guest.
That's right.
That's right.
Don't you forget it. I just wondered, in fact, I forgot what I was going to ask, but the fact is, it seems to me there are a lot of questions in the community about who's going to make a decision about this or that or the other thing. And I think your programs help us understand who's not doing their job or who hasn't really thought it through. And I think that's a real gift to the community, and we should all listen and decide who we should be calling.
I thank you for that, but I just want to say as a disclaimer that I no longer have that much of an opinion about who's not doing their job. Unlike when I was on council and I had an opinion, I'm trying to present. I mean, I don't have any illusion that I'm objective. Let's get it. That's straight. I'm striving for it, but I'll never achieve it. But I do try to be more neutral than I might have been as an elected official in a partisan office.
Well, I think that your guests can give you the clues as to whom they're having trouble with, and you can, maybe you don't want to be God or something.
I think if I were to decide how the audience should feel about it, I wouldn't have much of an audience after that. I think it's up to, I mean, my goal is to present understanding and then let you do what you will with it. If that's the decision you want to make afterwards, I feel like I've done my job, but I'm not going to. It's not the same thing as if I were in office trying to persuade you all to go a certain way. Any other questions? Got one more.
An observation and a question. The observation is I've taken presentation courses through my career a lot. And I think that's the first time I've ever really connected by you calling out emotion and the microphone specifically. Other than get energy, there's a lot of subliminal stuff that we do, but so that was quite interesting. Thank you. Secondly, how do you get the older population to do podcasts, to participate?
What do you mean to do them?
To participate, listen.
To listen or to make them? That's what I want
to listen.
Okay. Well, I think by now, so Charlotte introduced me as the founder of Blue Marble in 1995. That was the first internet provider in town. We have come a long way since then, and I do believe that everyone here in the room knows how to click links. I believe they know how to use web pages by now. If so, then the easiest way to listen would simply be go to the homepage of a given website, of a given podcast, rather. So you can find all the episodes for the 812 show at the812show.org. Right now, it's a very minimal site. Again, we're scrambling to try to get a real site up and running by next Monday, but there is a link there to where all the podcast episodes are hosted. So I don't host the podcast episodes on my own website. I have a third-party distributor. There's a number of third-party distributors who handle all the web traffic and they store the podcasts for you. And that's how mine works as well. So there's a link to that on the website. You simply go to the website, you will find whatever episodes you want. The website will also start mixing and matching episodes. So if you want to listen to a certain kind, like if you want to listen to all the county council members, we can put that on one page for you. If you want to listen to all the people who are working in performing arts nonprofits, I can put that on a separate page so you can find those links easily. So that's part of the benefit of having our own website. I didn't start with a website. I just wanted to start with getting shows out. So happily, this new season will start with a more proper introduction to the show. Thank you all. Thank you.
So in recognition of that great program, we will be donating $100 to New Leaf, New Life on your behalf, Steve. So thank you so much. And thank you for sharing how to get to it, because I consider myself part of the older population. And while I listen to podcasts, I would say I'm not very adept. I go to my kids to say, which one should I be listening to? Because there's a lot out there. So thank you for that information. As we all know, this program would not run without the help of many people here in this room. First of all, thank you, Natalie, for all that you do for us as our assistant. Sue Gamblieri, thank you for the greeting. Fantastic. Sally Gaskell, the introductions. I think that's the fewest we've had in a while for guests. So we'll have to work on that, getting more people in here. Joy, fantastic job from a Zoom standpoint. Roseanne, thank you for the wonderful of reflection that you gave. I have to say, when you had the picture of Bucky up there, I thought Michael had one of the Zoom people. I was like, who's got their dog up as a Zoom participant? That was awesome. Glenda, thank you as always for the reporting. And Michael, thank you for the camera, and Mike and Tyler, of course, and helping us get through some of the technical difficulties you always put on the spot, and we appreciate the way you always rise to the occasion. So with that, our next meeting will be on August 6th here in the Frangipane Room. Our speaker will be Dean Abra Bush from the Jacobs School on Jacobs in the Community. And then just a quick note, on the 13th of August, when we come in here, guess what happens? Students start coming back. It will be student orientation. The parking lot's going to be a zoo. So I'm giving you a forewarning of 2 weeks. You may want to park in Henderson and Atwater, just FYI, and we will have parking passes for those if that has to happen. And with that, Tyler, if you could put up the four-way test, and if we could all rise. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And fifth, is it fun?